Hi, everyone. Kathy Rose here to talk to you about the second half of December and the new moon in Capricorn and a few other astrological events that are taking place. But before I do that, let me just say happy holidays to everyone. And let me remind you that the last 2 weeks of December is a very special time. You get the opportunity to review the year and to ask yourself what you have polished, where you have evolved, what you have learned, and where you are proud of yourself. So I encourage you to make sure you do that year review meditation from a positive perspective. All right, let me share my screen and let's go into the slideshow I've created. And let's talk about the energies for the second half of December. First, let me draw your attention to the mandala that's on the screen. This is the mandala for Capricorn. And I want you to just feel the energies. You see the blacks, you see the golds, you see the browns, the grounded sort of practical energy, because Capricorn is very much aligned with achievement through strategy, system, structure, discipline. And that's what we're going to be feeling, especially strong during the new moon in Capricorn happening on December 23rd. But before we get there, let me just review what the key events are, and we're going to go through each one of these briefly. December 20th, we have Jupiter re-entering the sign Aries. It's very, very significant. We have the new moon in Capricorn on the 23rd, happening just a few days after the solstice, which was on the 21st when the sun entered Capricorn. And we have Mercury starting a retrograde on December 29th. So we're going to go through each one of these step by step. First things first, let's talk about Jupiter in Aries, which is actually kind of funny because Aries loves to be first. It's the first sign in the zodiac. If you look at the mandala on screen, you're going to feel dynamic, pulsating, courageous, assertive energy radiating from this mandala, and that's really characterizing Aries. Aries is a fire sign. And when Jupiter re-enters Aries on December 20th, we have to understand that it is going to literally speed through the sign, and it will be from December 20th to May 16th. It'll go from 0 degrees all the way to the end and then enter Taurus. Normally, Jupiter spends an entire year in a sign. So we have to go back and remember it was in Aries already this year from May 10th to October 27th. But during that time from May to October, Jupiter only transited the first 8 degrees of the sign. It got up to 8 degrees and it retrograded back. And then it re-entered Pisces in October. And we felt the energy shift. If you remember, when it went back into Pisces, there was kind of a nebulous feeling that came in, an emotional, sensitive, a little bit spacey, but compassionate energy, very creative and intuitive. But when it finishes Pisces and goes into Aries, we're going to feel things drying out and becoming more dynamic and the thrust of energy that wants to move forward. Here's how I would illustrate it to you. From December to May in particular, December 20th to May, we get to connect with courage. And the mantra that I think will be important is be courageous and risk a glorious success. You can't have a success unless you risk it. And so Jupiter in Aries is very much about facing challenges with confidence. So if you look at the mandala on the left side of the screen, that's a mandala I created 5 or 6 years ago, radiating confidence, soul confidence, inner soul esteem, belief in yourself, supporting yourself. And so this Jupiter in Aries energy can be so fabulous. The image that's on this meme where it says, be courageous, risk a glorious success. This is a photo from Sedona, Arizona that my husband and I took when we were there. I have taught a lot of retreats in Sedona, and I have climbed these rocks. And in order to do so, you have to be able to face challenge. So you have to ask yourself, When a challenge is presented to you, are you confident in being able to face it? Or do you criticize yourself? Do you go into fear? Do you tend to negate your abilities? And it's so important always, but particularly as Jupiter transits Aries, to embrace confidence and embrace challenge. So let's move on and talk about the new moon in Capricorn, because Jupiter in Aries plays a big part in this new moon. On the right side of the screen, of course, is the chart. If you don't know how to read a chart, don't worry about it. Don't stress, just ignore it. Look at the mandala instead. But if you do, you have to remember this chart is set for Washington, D.C. The houses are not that important. What's more important are the relationships between the planets. So what I have illustrated here in the red lines is the fact that at this new moon on December 23rd, 5:16 a.m. Eastern time, we have a square between the sun and the moon in Capricorn and Jupiter in Aries. What is most important is that this is activating a key point called the Aries point, which is going to be at the 0 degree of a cardinal sign. Aries is a cardinal sign. Capricorn is a cardinal sign. And the Aries point is still activated even all the way through the 1st degree. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this in the next slide and explain what I mean. But I do want to draw your attention to the fact that there are 5 planets in Capricorn during this new moon, and that's very significant. Again, we are going to be infused and bombarded with practical energy, achievement energy. And that's why I say during the second half of December, in the last 2 weeks of the year, praise yourself for your achievements for this year. Where have you grown as a soul? Let me shift images. And on the left side of the screen, now you're going to see an image where there's a big spotlight illuminating a person standing in the spotlight. And in a sense, receiving that spotlight energy, feeling good. Well, this is what the Aries point is all about. When I teach the Aries point in astrology, I always use this image, because what happens when we have planets at the 1st or the 0 degree or the 1 degree part of a cardinal sign is it's as if we have heightened visibility potential. What I mean by that is I'm going to implore you to have really good behavior and operate from highest intentions. And of course, we always want to do that. But let me just say this. During Aries point activation, there is the opportunity to shine, to get illuminated by a big spotlight for your good behavior. And that's something you want, right? So everywhere you walk, everywhere you go, whether it's to the grocery store, whether it's walking through an airport, whether it's just in the office where you might work, radiate your lovingness and understand that the visibility potential for your goodness, for your special energy is going to be very, very potent. Now, on the other hand, people who engage in gossip, people who might text nasty, critical words about another person, or send direct messages, or post terrible things on social media, that's also going to be in the spotlight. Behavior is going to get noticed. So pay attention to how you want to be seen and embrace the spotlight. Step into it with your beautiful, loving behavior. This is the Aries point coming from Jupiter in Aries, energizing confidence and courage, squaring the sun and moon in Capricorn at the Aries point, because even Capricorn is an Aries point. It's a cardinal sign. That's what's important to understand here. Best behavior, and understand that people who might have not so great intentions or not so great behavior, it's going to come forward into public view. Okay, so this is a very potent new moon for the world, but for how you use it personally. So if you want to get noticed, decide what you are radiating what you are filling your energy field with. When you smile, fill it with love. Fill your eyes with love, because this spotlight is going to be on you. So let's go to the next slide, which is going to be talking about Mercury retrograde. On December 29th, Mercury goes into the retrograde phase in Capricorn. And of course, I have to post the meme I have been posting for the last 5 or 6 years that says, my advice for Mercury retrograde is to release your fear of Mercury retrograde. This is so important because you will be bombarded on social media about survival guides for Mercury retrograde and fear-based messages saying your computer's going to break, your travel's going to be disrupted. And I would ask you to release that, because Mercury retrogrades can be very, very productive, especially in Capricorn. This is where you embrace structuring your mind and forming new habits. There's no better time to form a new habit than when we have strong Capricorn energy. So during this retrograde time, remember, Mercury might be retrograde, but you are not. And I, the rebel in me, the maverick in me, I always do things during Mercury retrograde that everybody else seems to be afraid of. So I do travel. I make important trips. I purchase things during Mercury retrograde, and I say, guess what? For me, it can work out. And it always does. I encourage you to be courageous, Jupiter and Aries, right? And to remember that Mercury is going to stay in Capricorn until February 11th. So again, what new habits do you want to create in your thinking, in your communication? What do you want to achieve with learning and developing your brain? Because Mercury in Capricorn can be phenomenally productive. So my final thoughts for the second part of December, the last 2 weeks. I know no better mantra than this to summarize what this last 2 weeks of December is about. It says, believe in yourself. You are braver than you think. You are more talented than you know and capable of more than you can imagine. This posture of standing with confidence, radiating your inner spiritual warrior, and really being supportive of yourself and facing challenges with confidence. That's what this last 2 weeks of December is about, and carried into, of course, 2023. You just don't want to do this for the last 2 weeks, but this is the theme. So as you go through the holidays, I urge you to stay relaxed, but keep up really good habits. And as you are celebrating holidays with your friends or your family, remember, the spotlight is on you. Radiate your wonderful lovingness. Let it shine. People will notice. And that's what you want to achieve, I think, in the end, right? So many blessings to you and happy holidays. And I look forward to talking to you next year.